In terms of like just leaving your friends altogether and just like moving on from them, that to me lends more to sometimes you grow apart, and your lives are different. I want you to breathe. I want you to breathe. I want you to breathe.
Hello, friends. We're back. We're Black and Curious. I'm Kandron.
What up, what up? It is Dehjai. How y'all doing?
If you've never been here before, welcome. We do a cross section between pop culture and real life. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, go ahead, drop down, subscribe, and we're here multiple times a week for you. And we do lives on Mondays. So join
This is
us
our
in the
version
crew.
of Vlogmas conversations.
Yes, yes. So, all right. Today's topic I actually got off of Instagram, so take do with that what you will. So
Listen.
the essentially someone this was from Myliek's page. Someone came into her comments when she did a Q&A and said, "My girlfriend will drop everything for her man, but never has time for her friends. Is that normal?" And so Myliek's answer was yes. I searched for something to sum it up better than I can, and she left an article. I'll link the article down below. Basically, the article said, we lose friends to relationships not because they cease to make time for us, not because their significant other replaces us, not even because they cease to care about us it may seem as much as it may seem that way. We lose friends to relationships because they lose the fundamental thirst that drives us when we're single, to be loved, accepted, and cared for. It is what drives more of our actions than we care to admit. No matter how deep our relationships with one another run, they undergo fundamental shift once one party has their needs satisfied in a way that the other does not. We lose friendships to relationships in our 20s because they have found something we're endlessly searching for, and so the hunt for them becomes a fruitless endeavor. What say you? I have strong feelings about this one.
Hmm. I'm not the type of woman who will like lose my friendship, um or like put my friendships before my significant other. Um
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also like I compartmentalize. So like what I mean by that is like there's a time and a place for my homegirls, and then there is a time and a place for my husband. So like reasonably, if there's something serious happening or going on within my relationship that could like conflicts in some sort of way, then okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go and take care of that and just explain like, hey girl, this is what's happening. I'm not gonna be able to do whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like just leaving your friends altogether and just like moving on from them, that to me lends more to sometimes you grow apart, and your lives are different. So like one of my really close friends, I don't know if she'll ever see this, but Booby, you know who you are. um we were really close in our early 20s. I met her right when I really started getting into doing makeup professionally. And we were like right and left. We were always together. But some years passed, and then I relocated and I moved to the city that I was in. And she ended up, in a serious relationship and then had a child. So her life was totally different.
Mm-hmm.
So her life was totally different. And I also had a whole bunch of like horrific shit that I was dealing with by myself living in another
Right.
city. And so when we spoke initially, because it had been a couple of months, maybe even it wasn't quite a year, but it had been a minute since we had spoken. And I just like I had to explain to her like it wasn't anything personal, like where I didn't want to talk to you or deal with you. It was just like you are you are in a serious relationship, you now are pregnant, and then after that you give birth to this child. Like your whole life is different. There's no space for me to be in there, and I'm not going to force my way in with the shit that I have going on, because you're not going to understand. Like this it's
Right.
just two different things, and it was no fault of, to me it was no fault of anyone's and no love lost. I still loved her just the same. I just recognized that our shit was different.
Right.
And
I
some
think that touches on something that I was thinking really as you were talking, as
yeah.
like, yes, sometimes the basis of our relationships change.
Yeah.
Um, you start a relationship, you know, I can speak for myself and say like some of my relationships started very young. Like my best friend, I don't talk about my best friend a lot because that's a relationship that's very sacred to me. But my best friend and I, we are completely opposite. If you, for the people who have met her, you probably just like, how in the hell did y'all become friends? But my best friend and I met in seventh grade. So of course, like our relationship in seventh grade was the crushes we had, the boys we had crushes on, and probably high school the same. And then early 20s the same,
Right.
dating and relationships. And like if you aren't intentional about it, yes, the relationship, your the basis of your relationship can change such that it's not an important one anymore.
Yeah.
However, like for me, I we had a conversation of like every time there were upheavals or things were happening in our lives, like she's married, she has two kids, and like I was just like, well, how can we had an actual conversation like, how can I be here for you? This is an important relationship to me. How
Mhm.
would you like to move forward? Like there were times when we talked every day. That was not practical anymore. She has two kids and a husband. So
Yeah.
it became like a shift of like, okay, what makes sense here?
Mm-hmm.
Once a week. Okay, that doesn't make sense anymore because we don't have nothing to talk about because we're grown and all we do is go to work. So like okay,
Right.
we can pop in on text every other week and then we'll do an hour catch up on the off week or 30 minutes to an hour catch up on the off week. And that works for us. And I think sometimes like people get offended or people feel away when sometimes it's just a conversation. Now, if sometimes the conversation works, sometimes it doesn't. I've known other situations where the conversation doesn't work. But
Yeah.
like if it's an important relationship with you, have the conversation and it can work. And you
I
just
think
have to
so.
adjust.
I think if she were to see this now, um, like I don't have there's nothing horrible or bad that I could say. I just think that the way things ended, it was just kind of like it was one of those times when like this was almost a decade ago, I feel like, but it was one of those
Right.
times where I had a lot of change going on personally and emotionally.
Mhm.
And so that added to like further, self seclusion and trying to figure my shit out.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to, I'm not somebody who's gonna put that on other people. I just don't believe in that. And like
Yeah.
when you like you said, your best friend's life was totally different. She had two kids and a husband. Like my girl had a baby and a partner, like they're now married and like have relocated and everything, but like lives are just totally different. And like
Yeah.
I think um also maybe I would say we were too young to be able to have that type of conversation. Um the one that you had, like that is like an admirable trait of yours that like you hold on to your people. And
Yes.
I do, but I don't, in the sense that like with things like that, it was just kind of like I'm tunnel vision in the middle of what I'm experiencing right now,
Right.
and I don't have the language to express what I'm experiencing one, let alone try to navigate keeping a relationship that like hasn't really been one in a really long time.
Yeah.
So
I think
I'll just
also,
let things go the way they go. Like if you keep it intentional and you're trying to keep up with me, then I'm gonna continue to do the same thing. But if that's not what's
yeah.
happening, then we just have grown apart, and it's not. I'm not gonna treat you any differently when we do reconnect. To me, you're still gonna always be whatever that person was that I loved the most, that allowed me to be in your life, and vice versa for you to be in mine.
Yeah. And I've had other friendships that definitely did go down the drain, but honest, and I wouldn't say they weren't important friendships, but yeah, our lives had evolved too differently in a way that
Mhm.
it just was off. And again, I was the single person and with no kids, and they were having a whole family with multiple children, like,
Yeah.
and so the relationship kind of fell, but I was fine with that because again, if
Right.
I am,
Have respect for what you got going on.
yeah, and not only that, like if I am, if a relationship means enough to me, I will fight for it. And that includes my friendships. Like, and I honestly, this is something about me, and I think most only children feel the same way. Like, our friends are our people.
Yeah.
And
I'm an
actually,
honorary only child.
several of my friends are only children, and we hold on to each other like no tomorrow. But that is because we don't have siblings. Like, our friends are our people. And, you know, as a result of that, I know that I feel differently about friendship than other people do. I know that other people don't take it quite as seriously. They're like, if the relationship has run its course, it's run its course. But I, like you said, I hold on to my people, and it's very important to me to have my people around me. And again, that's not to say we have to talk all the time like we used to. We don't have time for that. Everybody
Trust
going
me,
to
I have
work,
a friend that
everybody
I
going
think
to
I've
bed.
mentioned on this show that we would speak like every 6 months, and then
Yeah.
my friend that I mentioned who lives in New Orleans, and then after visiting, I'm like, yo, we got to do better. So at least let's get on 3 months. Like,
Yeah.
but like
But
being able
again,
to
those
see
are the
each other and
conversations
take
you
trips.
have when it's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
agree.
when it's important to you. And then the other thing I will say, I think that people's reactions to people that are in relationship are different too. I think people
Mm-hmm.
like to say, "Oh, you're funny acting," or "Oh, you whatever," because you're in a relationship. "Oh, you don't want to leave home," whatever, whatever. And it's like, yeah, but other people react differently to you as well. Like, they don't invite you to things. They don't, you know what I'm saying? That's fine. That's fine. I'm just saying it's a two-way situation, because they're also trying to figure out where they fit into your life now. Because if that was your, we talked about going to the club as married people, we talked about it in the context of Married at First Sight, so I'll link it above. But
Yeah.
if that was your club friend and suddenly they don't go to the club no more, you not, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-mm.
Or they're married and you're going to the club because you're single and you trying to meet somebody, like, maybe that's not who you want in your club crew anymore. But I think, again, like I said before, if the relationship is important, have that conversation. Like, hey, I know you don't go to the club no more. What can we do instead?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe we could do the, we don't go to the club every, week like we used to, or multiple times in a week for some people. But like, maybe we can go once a month, or maybe we can do brunch instead, or maybe we can do a boozy brunch or unlimited brunch, because those girls get clubbish, honey.
Okay.
Okay. So you can do other things. But again, I think the basis is that the relationship has to be important enough for you to have those conversations and like be intentional about it.
Yeah, I think so. But I also feel like, to your point, like people just change and shift once
Yeah.
they're in relationship, and so sometimes they just don't even be thinking about, like, oh, I'm dropping this for that, and
Yeah.
it's not even like an intentional thing. It just happens. You get
Yeah,
swept
of course.
into your relationship. So I
Yeah.
feel like people just need to have grace. Like, your
100%.
your friend who is in a relationship, or who now has a new baby, or who's just now getting married, it's not that they don't love you, or they decided that you're expendable, or whatever the case may be. It's just that they have something new that's happening that is taking up more of their time and energy, and right now they cannot be in space with you in the way they once were. That, just like Kandron has already stated, it just needs to be redefined and
Yeah.
have a conversation.
100%. So, anyways, drop down in comments. Let us know what you think about this subject. How friendships change when a relationship is introduced, when one of the parties is in a serious relationship. Like I said, I'll drop all of the information down below in the description box. Like, comment, subscribe. All of our social is also in the description box, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.